The disruption was a major distraction to the speech, and it's almost as though whatever Jacob Zuma was going to say was going to be very, very secondary when compared to what had gone on in the preceding hour. The combination of factors of blocking cell phone signals in the parliamentary chamber and, of course, the ejection of the EFF and then, of course, the DA's walkout really, I think, negatively affected the entire evening. It also negatively affected, I think, brand South Africa from a foreign audience's point of view, and I think it certainly hurt the integrity of Parliament as an institution, which will take some time to recover.
Daniel, the scrambling of phones widely condemned, so was the removal by possibly plain-clothed cops. A lot of talk about who they were. The ANC has been accused of being very authoritarian, but this is going to be a long-term standoff. It does seem that the EFF is determined that the president won't speak in the House. So a lot of criticism, but what is the suggestion for the ruling party to deal with this from their side?
Well, I think the major disruption, of course, has come from the EFF, and this seems to be the nature of their politics. It's been ever since they were elected to Parliament 6-9 months ago. But the EFF are themselves not a cohesive body anymore. They have many dissenting members of their own caucus. It even became apparent last night that there were some EFF members of Parliament who did not necessarily agree with the strategy to disrupt the president's speech. And I suspect that despite the fact that the EFF looked as though it was behind Mr. Malema last night, those differences in the EFF, which have already manifested in the course of the last week, I think are going to continue to boil. So the EFF themselves are going to have to consider whether this strategy of constant disruption of the president, whatever their differences are with the president, does it really work? Does it really work within the parliamentary context? And does it work in terms of getting them votes? And there's no indication to suggest that the EFF strategy of disruption actually wins them votes. So my own feeling is that the EFF might have to reconsider their strategy and perhaps come with a more constructive approach, which I think will help both the ANC and, for that matter, the DA going forward in Parliament.
What do you make of the president's response to the disruptions, which was really not much of a response? He brushed it off and went straight into the speech.
Look, I think the president missed a key opportunity. He missed an opportunity, really, I think, to perhaps refer to the disruption when he resumed his particular speech. He could have made a unifying call, I think, to South Africa. Not a party political message, just a unifying call. And I think that would have earned him applause. And I think perhaps many South Africans would say, yes, let's rather be united than divided. And I think on top of that, I think he also missed an opportunity to perhaps personally address some of the nasty underlying trends in South Africa, trends surrounding racism, trends surrounding xenophobia. The president seemed to be unable to depart from the rigidity or the text of his prepared speech. And I do feel that going forward, I think our politicians need to be much more media savvy, much more communication savvy when it comes to these major addresses watched by many millions of people.
All right, let's talk about the content of the speech. We all remember that time when Jacob Zuma did speak. He addressed the weak rand and the rand weakened further. Last night it was actually ticking upwards. And of course investors are worried about Eskom. He confirmed the bailout, things like that, but nothing new on energy, it seems. Do you agree?
I agree there was very little new generally in the speech, and I think despite what the president says, in the short to medium term, there doesn't seem to be much that can be done to suddenly bring additional megawatts online. This is something of a medium to longer term strategy, and we saw the president talk about the potential of gas and then the potential of nuclear going forward with a 10-year or 15-year view into the future. It was a speech largely devoid of short-term solutions, which there probably aren't, and it was also devoid of at least making South Africans feel a little bit better about the rather unpleasant situation they have to face with load shedding. I think it also reflects, if I might say, an inability of the president, the constraints that the president has, largely to announce anything more dramatic or innovative, because even within the ruling ANC, I think there are internal disagreements within the trade union movement, within the South African Communist Party, over ideology and over what future economic course is necessary for South Africa. And this manifested itself in a speech that I think treaded water rather than spoke positively for issues in the future.
He is championing nuclear energy, and there's a big debate. Could this be the legacy of Jacob Zuma? But of course it's so controversial. And what do you make of him saying that it's going to be a very fair, transparent process, the procurement of nuclear energy, juxtaposed with the Mail and Guardian today looking at that agreement that was signed with Russia?
Well, the proof will be in the pudding, and I think if the president says that it's going to be free and the procurement process is going to be transparent, let's wait to see who are the bidders, who government does consult and negotiate with, alongside the Russians who we know the president has been talking to. This is something that will play itself out over the course of the next number of months, and I think all South Africans will be interrogating this deal, because it's a costly deal to the taxpayers of South Africa, and it's a long-term and critical deal for us here. But look, I think the president and the ANC have moved closer to their BRICS partners over the course of the last few years. And I would expect that those BRICS partners, and Russia would be one of them, is probably front of the line in terms of getting the contracts.
All right, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. Political analyst Daniel Silke coming to us live from our Cape Town studio. Well,